So according to Darren Hardy, there's 4 parts of the equation that make up luck. Number 1 is preparation. That's just your personal growth. Number 2 is your attitude. So your mindset, your belief system. Number 3 is opportunity. So the right thing coming along. And number 4 is action. What steps you're actually taking to grab the opportunity. Preparation plus attitude plus opportunity plus action apparently is equal to luck. There's it. Or there it is, rather. That's all. And I think it's true. I think a lot of times, especially in society nowadays, people achieve things and we say things like, oh yeah, they just got lucky. And then we start to compare them and their upbringing to that of someone in a less privileged background. And we're like, the fact that they achieved this is not because they're skilled, it's because they got lucky. And I think, yeah, while there's some truth to that, it's also highly reductive. And we just need to start admitting that luck is actually not just something that falls on you. There are active things you need to do to create luck. There are things that will enable you be lucky. And it's not just some miracle that slaps you in the face and overtakes your life. If you don't take the right actions, you won't get lucky. Like, okay, fine, I'm looking for a job and I get a job and it's a very competitive field. Someone can say, I'm lucky. But would I have gotten the job if I never applied? Would I have gotten the job if I did rubbish at the interview or showed up late or dirty? Or would I have gotten the job if I was rude to the interviewer? Would I have gotten the job if I didn't do my research before getting in there? So yeah, someone can say, oh look, only 1% of people get into this industry, you got lucky. Fine, but also it just brushes off the amount of things you need to do to be, or to rather manifest that luck. Anyway, I think the reason why this camera looks really good today. Ooh, look at that. You know, God created me well because look at that cheekbone. Look at that cheekbone. God, leave me alone, because there are many days I wake up and I feel like I look like shit, but I'm looking into the camera right now and just look at this chiseled face God creates. In Nigeria, we say God they create when you see someone who looks fine. We're like, God they create. Anyway, look at me. Back to the topic. Today I'm going to be reviewing a book called The Compound Effect by Darren Hardy. So Darren Hardy, I'm just going to read off some of my notes here. He's an author and editor-in-chief of Success Magazine, and he has helped numerous entrepreneurs and CEOs to lead their companies to success. In his book, Compound Effect, he reveals time-tested principles that help people achieve goals and help people break their goals into manageable chunks of action, and also help people stay true to their principles while achieving great things. I did not read this book recently. I read this book years ago. So for my 20th birthday, while I was doing my master's at King's College London, I had my birthday, and one of my friends from my undergrad visited me in London for lunch that day, and she gave me a birthday gift. And I think people tend to know I'm into this kind of like personal development growth space, because it's not rare that during my birthday people would give me gifts, and you know, there would be books inside them. I must be someone who talks about this a lot, but she gave me a book and it was called The Compound Effect by Darren Hardy, and I loved the book so much that I think it was one of the few books that I've had for at least, because I'm 25 now, so for at least 5 years I've had this book with me in near vicinity at all times, and there's no other book in my life that's been that way. And I actually think it's here. The Compound Effect, Darren Hardy. And you might think, oh yeah, I had it handy because I'm doing a book review, but no, for the past 5 years, it's been inside my desk, and that's the only book in my desk. I literally totally forgot it was here until I started talking about this, and then I brought it out. So that wasn't even scripted at all. And I think the whole premise of the book is talking about how you get the biggest results in life, not by this like big actions that we take once in a while, but actually from the small smart choices we repeatedly make over time, over a long period of time. So for example, if you want to lose weight, a 6-week intense diet course might sound powerful, but actually something that might be more powerful is just for you to, use a smaller cup every morning when you're taking coffee. Or let's say you might think, how can I cut calories from my diet? And you think of some drastic thing you can do that will make you lose 20 stone in 1 week. But actually, all you can do is reduce your soda intake from two bottles to 1 bottle a day. Or if you usually have a 500 ml soda every day, you can just try and cut it down to 300 ml or something. And it's that little deficit, 200 ml deficit you've created, compounded over time. In 5 years, you would not be the same person you would have been if you never took that small change. But it's like the little small changes every day add up to something huge. And I think this plays into the whole preparation and action aspects of the formula to get unlucky. It's like, what are you doing and how are you preparing yourself for that? What are the little action steps you're taking to meet your goal? In the book, Darren gives us 3 friends. As an example, he gives us 3 friends who live in the same environment and they earn similar amounts of money, similar types of lives basically. And one of them does nothing, like just remains like this. The second one cuts like soda from his diet and also reads 10 pages per day of a book, whereas another one gets like if I'm right, gets like a video game, gets like a bar in his house, and his diet kind of like plummets. He's a lot more sedentary, drinking, playing games. And I think Darren implies that as time passes, it doesn't look like there's any much difference between the 3 people, but shoot forward a few years and the one who's cut out soda from his diet and has been reading 10 pages of a self-help book a day has improved. The one who did nothing, which is the first friend, has stayed at the same place, but the one who started gaming, started drinking, etc., is now significantly worse. He's way unhealthy. He has a terrible relationship with his wife because he's now so fucking lazy and just not impressive at all. And a lot of things has plunged, so he gets pretty bad and fat, but from a habit of eating fattening foods over years and watching a lot of TV and not moving around and being sedentary. So those choices, day by day, we don't see the difference or how anything has changed. Like if there's 2 people in this room and somebody goes today and skips soda and then reads a book, whereas I watch TV and play games and like eat some fattening foods, etc., by the end of the day, let's say we all go out to play or go out to hang out or anything, you're not going to see a difference between 2 of us, right? Even though our actions have been different. But fast forward 5 years, if we have been doing the same thing every day, there will be a clear difference. The other friend will be wiser, smarter, making better decisions, healthier. I would be less healthier, and I would be so zombied up from all the junk food and junk TV I've been watching. So that's an example Darren gives us in this book, where there's a ripple effect from a long chain of little small actions done over and over again. The book tells us that we need to start by taking responsibility in our lives. A lot of times there's people who they're always complaining about something, and yes, there's things that are not good in life, but when I say complaining about things, like if something is not going well in their life, they have someone else to blame. Like, oh, the government, the government is doing this, oh, my boss is doing this, oh, that person, they only achieve that because they have privilege, or this or that, right? We don't take accountability for our life outcomes, and until you're able to do that, you're not going to get the life you want, because you're going to keep believing or telling yourself that it's out of your control. And so his point is that your life is within your control, and you should, I think quoting Jim Rohn, says you shouldn't wish it were easier, you should wish you were better, which is quite a harsh quote. I know it sounds woo-woo, like, oh, don't wish it were easier, just be better, I wish you were better. And it's not as easy to do as it sounds, but it is the truth. And Darren says, you alone are responsible for what you do, what you don't do, and how you react to what's done to you. He talks about how it's not the big things in life that count the most, but rather the hundreds, thousands, and hundreds of thousands and millions of little things. Those are the things that separate ordinary from extraordinary. So smart, small choices plus time plus consistency equals radical difference. And once you've then decided to be more accountable in your life, you need to figure out what your goals are. A lot of people don't have goals. They're unsatisfied with their lives, but they don't have goals. And if you don't have goals, what are you not satisfied with? Like, have your goals, and if you know what they are in your head, write them down. Like, anytime I see people advising other people to write goals down, I always get surprised that there are people who don't write their goals down. I'm like, how are we still, like, how do you not write your goals down? Like, how do you not write your goals down? Okay, but you need to write your goals down. They make them more concrete. You can look at them every day, and it helps you plan the steps you need to take to get to the goal. Like we've just talked about, it's the small consistent steps over time that help you get to the big wins. But then how can you know what those small steps are if you don't know the big goal in front of them? So you need to know what you want your life to look like in 15 years, 20 years, and then work backwards. Tell yourself, okay, well, what do I need to achieve this year? Where do I need to get to this year that will push me forward to that 15-year goal? That will help you establish your targets for the year. Now, once you have the targets for the year, you say, well, what is the monthly action I need to take to get to that place by the end of the year? And when you decide that, you now know what your goal for the month is. And then, so every start of every week, you can then be like, okay, what do I need to do this week? Either it may be a one-off thing, or it can be a daily thing, or it can be a bi-weekly, twice-weekly thing. But what basically do I need to do this week to help me get to my monthly goal? Because the monthly goal will then help you get to the yearly goal, and then next thing you know, you have a life that is fully intentional and you have amazing results in the long term. And that's because you wrote your goals down and you were able to break it into small chunks of things that could help you along the way. A lot of people plan their lives, and achieve great things, and we look at it and we say, oh my god, they got lucky or they're privileged, etc. And I'm like, yeah, but if you speak to them properly, you will realize that they also knew what they wanted and they went after it in a very, very focused and tactical manner. So yeah, write your goals down if you haven't written your goals down. So Darren says that if you're not making the goals, or rather if you're not achieving what you want to achieve and what you are capable of achieving, it's because your goals are not clearly defined. You might know what they are, but they're not clearly defined. So you need to start by writing it down and then breaking them into very, very small, sizable chunks. And there really isn't any limit to how tiny you can break your work into. Because, when I gave you that earlier example, it went down to like, the weekly level and the daily level. But even when you get to that point, you can then say, okay, what do I need to do this morning or this afternoon or this night to get me to the goal for the day, which helps the goal for the week, which helps the goal for the month, and then the year, and then the decade. So one of the most important things you can do in getting to the big wins in your life is actually clearly defining your goal. What do you want, and why do you want what you want? We've all heard of Simon Sinek's book, Start With Why. Ashamed to say I haven't read it yet, but I've watched him speak a lot, so I get the whole idea of you need to start with why. It's the most important thing that determines even how far you go with anything, like your reason for doing what you do. And I think it's very important because I was thinking about this yesterday actually. Why haven't I really started YouTube for all these years? Why have I shied away from it? Why have I not done a lot of things that I know I'm capable of? It's because I probably didn't have a strong enough reason to do it. Whereas now, the reason why I'm starting YouTube is very, 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 very clear. I want to get it to a monetizable point where I can use the funds that I raise from it to then kickstart the kind of like manufacturing and marketing process of my brand that I'm creating. But apart from that, I also want to use it as a vehicle to get more eyes onto my channel and subsequently to my music. So there's two clear goals for this channel. There's 2 clear reasons why I'm starting this channel. Whereas, yes, I previously said I'd procrastinated YouTube for 12-13 years, but I don't think I ever had a reason why I wasn't even going to start in the first place. And so it was very easy for me to just call quits after a few weeks of any video, because why was I even doing it in the first place? There wasn't a hard, concrete reason. So it's very important to know what your goals are, but why your goals are. There are many people who look like adults, but they're actually not adults. They're basically grown-up children. They don't do a lot of important things because they want to, or because they know why they want to. They're doing it because society says they should be doing it. They're doing it because mommy and daddy says they should be doing it. So we're talking about big things like where you work, what you do for work, who you get married to, how many kids you have, how you dress. These are not light decisions, and there's so many people walking around and they don't actually have they haven't taken responsibility over those things. They're still doing what they want, what they think will please the people around them. But in the book, Darren mentioned that his mentor Jim Rohn actually says the day you graduate from childhood to adulthood is the day you take full responsibility of your life. There's many adults who haven't taken full responsibility of their lives, and I think that's really sad, but it's understandable because it takes a lot of courage. It takes a lot of courage to stand up to the people around you and say, I don't want this for myself. I know you want this for me, but I don't want this for myself, and I'm going to live my life the way I want it to be, and whatever happens, I'm okay with the outcome. It's on me. It's something, yes, everyone should ideally do, but I guess we'll all get there in our own times. Another reason why it's very important for you to write down your goals is that it will help you track your goals. If my goal, for example, is to write 150 songs this year, then I can then say, okay, that means per week I need to write about 3 songs. And then I can actually create a tracker where at the end of each week I can, tell myself how many songs have I written. If it's less than 3, I know I'm doing badly. If it's more than 3, I know I'm doing good. And it'll be more likely for me to hit my goal of 150 songs in a year if I'm actually tracking it, okay? So as Darren says in the book, all winners are trackers. If you don't track your success, see, life is busy, life is intense, life is distracting. You might have a goal and by the way, I'm like unzipping my jeans because it's so fucking tight I can't breathe. You might have a goal and have all the best intentions, and you'll get to the end of the year and you wouldn't have hit many goals, and you'd be thinking, where did all the time go? Oh my god, this year sped past. And it's because you weren't tracking your goals. It's very, very easy to get carried away by the other things in life. Life is very noisy, life is very distracting, and days go by quickly. So it's important that you write your goals down and you track your goals and you create measures and metrics and set standards. What does good look like? What do I want this to be? Like, okay, fine, I want to start a brand. What's my success criteria? How many sales do I want to make this month? How many pieces of content do I want to make every week? Etc. So make sure you write your goals. It's very important. When you write down your goals, it'll help you create a routine. And routines are extremely powerful. These are all things, Darren mentions in the book, by the way. Routines are very powerful. They separate, the successful among us from everyone else, and that's because routines create discipline and they build good habits, etc. Now, just because someone says routine doesn't mean that every day has to be the same. I think that is a very easy cognitive mistake to make and think because I'm saying create a daily routine, it means that, okay, Monday, Tuesday, Friday, etc., or Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, like everything you do must be the same. Not really. It can be different. So it can be, on Mondays this is what I do, on Tuesdays this is what I do, or it can be okay, fine, this is what happens roughly every day, but every 12th of the month this happens, every 11th of the month this happens. So it doesn't mean every day needs to be identical, but it just means that there should be certain routines in place that create patterns and facilitate consistency and momentum. And when it comes to momentum, Darren talks about this thing called the Big Mo. He uses an example of a rocket ship and talks about how when a rocket ship wants to take off, it uses about 80% of the fuel in the actual takeoff process, because once it's up there, it doesn't need as much fuel to operate. So most of the fuel is used up in the first 2 to 3 minutes of takeoff, and it's smooth sailing from there. So it kind of illustrates to us how oftentimes the beginning of something can be hard, but it can get easier a lot of the time. Momentum is very important. But to gain momentum, you have to put yourself in the right environment and surround yourself with the right things and the right people. There's something that people don't talk about a lot, and I think it's important because it relates to how your environment is stronger than you. When it comes to a battle between your environment and you, your environment will win. So number one, supply your knowledge with clean water. Okay, read the right things, listen to the right things, watch the right things, because your brain is a processing machine, and it's whatever you give it, it will feed on, and it will think about, it would process, it would like regurgitate, etc. Have you ever experienced something where you read something and you don't think about it, and then randomly like 6 hours later your mind would pick up something, like it will make a connection that it didn't make when you were reading that thing, and then suddenly it's been like 6 hours, and you then make a connection in your brain and you're like, oh, now I understand that, even though you weren't actively thinking about that thing anymore. Like it just pops back into your head hours later and you make a connection. That means when you put things into your brain, you might think you've even forgotten about it, you will move on with your normal life, but your brain is right there in the subconscious, in the background, still processing that information you put inside it, making sense of the world. So you need to put like good stuff in there so that your brain is actually processing useful stuff that helps you move forward in life rather than stupid shit, for lack of better words. So get rid of the negative inputs, but not just from books and movies and sites and audio, but actually from other people. Stay away from people who are mostly negative in your life, who anytime you talk about something good, they find a way to be antagonistic towards it or be overly critical towards it. That's a word is enough for the wise. Just stay away from negative people. It doesn't mean you shouldn't be civil towards them, it doesn't mean you should be rude towards them, but cut the amount of time you spend with people who it feels that whenever you're around them they're bringing you down, or even if it's not about you but they're just all negative all the time and their outlook on life is very grim. You stay with them long enough time and you will notice you're not making any progress in your own life. So when you think about, getting the right, making sure you're surrounding yourself by the right people and things and making those choices, it helps because, and I quote Darren here, in essence, you make your choices, then your choices make you, right? So you choose what you listen to, you choose what you watch, you choose what you read, then the information from that then makes you, right? It's like there's this unrelated quote which says, it's like, be careful how long you stare into the abyss, because as you stare into the abyss stares back into you, and it's just this yin and yang thing. Anything we put out there comes back in, or anything we bring in goes back out. So just be careful about the people you surround yourself with and the kinds of information you're putting in your head, because they will determine the belief system you build, and your belief system will impact actions you take, and the actions you take impacts the results of your life. Darren in this book advises that we seek out people who are successful in the way we want to be successful. So he says there's this advice: don't take advice from anyone you wouldn't want to trade places with. And I mean, I don't fully agree with that, but generally when someone is giving you advice on something but they haven't been through that, or rather their situation in that area of life is not where you want to be, then take that advice with a pinch of salt. Not necessarily because it's bad, but because the fact that they aren't where you want to be, it already means you guys think differently, or maybe you don't even want the same things, so why would you use their own blueprint? Darren talks about how our biggest mistake is not that, like, our biggest challenge isn't that we've been intentionally making bad choices. It's not like every time we're presented with a good and a bad choice we pick a bad choice, but the problem is that we've been sleepwalking through bad choices, and that's why we need to wake up, be intentional, figure out our why, point out our goals, write them down, set up tracking and measurement systems in place, and then go after what we want, right? And if you're afraid, we'll talk about this in a different video, but just know that fear isn't going to disappear if you're more courageous. I think sometimes we go forward with things that we think, basically when people tell you to not be afraid, you might actually go ahead with something and feel like, oh my god, I'm still afraid, so clearly this isn't working. But actually that's not true. When you're being courageous, the fear isn't going to disappear. The fear is still going to be there. It just means you're going ahead regardless. Something I heard yesterday for the first time, I can't remember who said this, but it's that courage is fear that has said its prayers. And I found that so, true. And when I heard that line, courage is fear that has said its prayers, I smiled, because it's really true. If you're afraid to go ahead with your goals and you're waiting to not be scared anymore, you're gonna wait forever, because the fear never really goes away. Even when you do make action towards your goal, you do take action, even when you have taken the action, the fear is always there. And sometimes it changes form and everything, but just do it. Darren also talks about Newton's first law, the law of inertia, which basically states, and I'm going to read directly, objects at rest tend to stay at rest unless acted on by an outside force. Objects in motion tend to stay in motion unless something stops their momentum. Put another way, couch potatoes tend to stay couch potatoes. Achievers, people who get into a successful rhythm, continue busting their butts and end up achieving more and more. So what can you do to start to see the results of compound effect in your life? I would just advise 2 things. The first one, write down 5 or 6 or however many, but let's keep it at 5 or 6, don't go too much, inconsequential steps you can take, actions you can take going forward, and then write 5 or 6 inconsequential steps that you can, or rather things that you can stop doing. And inconsequential is wrong. It's basically seemingly inconsequential. So things that seem like they shouldn't have much of an effect, that's what you should focus on. You can say, oh, I want to do 3 squats a day. By the end of the year, you would have done about 1,000 more than someone who doesn't do any squats at all. Even though 3 squats a day is nothing. I can do 3 right now. And I would, but my camera is set up as shit. And that's a step, that's a good thing. Or you can think about something seemingly inconsequential that you should stop. And that might be, let's say you go to bed at 1 a.m. every day. And you want to get more sleep. Maybe now start to go to bed at 12:45. It's just 15 minutes, so it doesn't seem like a big deal. But cumulatively, you'd actually start to get more sleep and cut down on just staying awake all the time. So yeah, that's basically the end of the video. If you have any comments at all, let me know. If you have questions on anything, let me know. If you've read the book, what were your favorite bits? Or is there any part you didn't quite understand or you didn't like? Let's talk about it. Everything goes here. And one final thing to remember is that Albert Einstein apparently once said that compound interest is the 8th wonder of the world. Those who understand it earn it, and those who don't pay for it. And I know, yes, that was more in a financial context, but it applies in every way of our lives. Tiny, terrible decisions that are so tiny, we don't think about them at all, end up turning into grave, destructive things. Whereas tiny, good actions that, again, we don't think about very much, end up turning into massive, beautiful things. The compound effect.